Hello, everybody, and welcome to Economics and You. I am your host, Mr. Samuelson. Today, we're going to be talking about taxation, the money that we have to pay to the government. Boo-hoo. Why do we have to pay this money? Why is the government coming after my money? Well, it's to pay for all the goods and services that the government provides us. We drive on roads, we have traffic lights, there are police officers to protect us and teachers to guide our future, and all this stuff costs money. And it has to come from somewhere, and almost all of it comes from taxes. That is why we have to pay taxes. And this is the government's largest source of revenue. They don't make money from much that they do. Taxes is the biggest chunk. And so they have taxes that go out. Individuals have to pay taxes, small businesses, corporations, we're all paying taxes. Well, except for the criminals who are evading taxes, but they're criminals and they shouldn't evade taxes. All right, principles of taxation. Number one, the first way that people are taxed. One way that we do this is through a principle known as the benefits received principle. These are taxes that are designed to only hit those people who use a particular good or service. A good solid example of this is the tax on gasoline. If you're not driving a car on the roads, then you're not going to pay the gas tax because you're not going to buy gasoline to fill up that car. Since the roads are largely paved with money brought in from the gas tax, you're not paying toward it because it's a good or service that you're not really using. So that's benefits received principle. But most of our taxes actually follow a different principle, which is called the ability to pay principle. In this one, we recognize that there are certain goods and services that are public goods, public services. We all benefit from it. And these tend to be taxed under this ability to pay structure, with the belief that people with higher incomes who are making more money would pay tax at a higher rate because they're able to, because it's less harmful to them as a whole to pay a little bit more in taxes, to put these goods and services into place in our society that benefits everybody, including them. Examples of these are defense, police, schools. Everybody benefits from the fact that we have a military. Everybody benefits from the fact that we have police, and everybody benefits from the schools. Even those without kids in schools, you are still benefiting every time you go to a store and the person behind the register knows how to make change. All right, so there are three tax kind of philosophies that are applied throughout our taxation system. One is a type of tax called a proportional tax. A proportional tax is going to hit the wealthy and the poor pretty much exactly the same. Okay, it does not favor the wealthy or the poor. Everybody pays the same tax rate regardless of their income. Okay, the tax doesn't change. Income is not really a factor for increasing or decreasing your taxes. Now, property taxes, the taxes that we pay on our homes, are an example of this because they don't even look at your income. They don't care what your income is. If you are living in $1 million house, you're going to pay higher taxes than somebody who's living in a $100,000 house because the property is more valuable. They don't care about income. It's simply measured on property. And whether you're, rich or poor, you might assume somebody in $1 million house is rich, but not always. Isn't a factor that they consider. It's just looking at some other consideration. Progressive taxation is another way. Progressive taxation is designed to hit wealthier people harder, with the idea that wealthier people can afford more. This is the ability to pay principle. Okay, the more money I have, the more tax I can afford to pay. And income tax is the best example of this out there, because as your income increases, the tax that you pay on that increases. And we can see this chart over here. Like everybody would pay 10% on the first $8,350 that they earned. That's Bill Gates or somebody who's just working a summer job and living at home with their parents. But the next dollar, 8,351, gets taxed at 15%. And it keeps going all the way up the scale until we get to 372,951 and over is paid at 35%. Now, this dollar amount and $2 billion a year all get taxed at the same rate. This is the maximum rate within our system. All right, regressive tax is now the opposite. Okay, regressive taxes are going to hit the poor harder than they hit the wealthy. What? We have a system in place that's going to tax the poor more than the rich? Well, depends on how you look at it. We have to remember here that we're considering the overall income in comparison to the taxes that you pay. To best explain this, we want to look at sales tax as an example. So let's say we have somebody who makes $10,000 a year and another person who makes $50,000, but they are driving the same amount. They are buying the same amount of food, and there's a flat tax on both of these. They wind up paying the exact same $2,000 a year in tax on these products. Okay, as a proportion of this person's income, they're paying 20% of their income on these basic needs in life. This person instead is paying 4% of their total income. I think my math is right there. On these goods. So they're paying a much less proportion of their overall income, which makes this sort of taxation regressive. It hits the poor harder than the wealthy because the poor have less money to spend on these goods. All right, quick, simple, and easy. That was our lesson for today. I hope that you learned something and that you enjoyed this maybe just a little bit. And I will see you next time. Farewell.